Hello, hi, what up, though? It's your boy Stevie D with Photoshop tips that you guys might like to know today. So, I get asked a lot of times, what is my retouching process and how do I retouch skin? So, I'm going to show you guys today two of the tools that I use when I retouch. Normally, when I retouch, I'm usually retouching in RGB 16-bit, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to retouch in 8-bit. So, a lot of times, what we see happen is the first thing people do when they retouch is they Command J and duplicate the background layer. Well, when you do that, your file size doubles. Let me show you just what I'm talking about. Look at the document size over here. And let me go ahead and Command J. And now it's double. So anything you do on that file, on that layer, and if you duplicate it again, those numbers are going to duplicate as well. So after a while, you're going to see, in my experience, that your processor kind of slows down, your memory kind of gets clogged up a little bit, your scratch disk gets kind of crazy, and then your file size is just 1 and 2 gigs before you even know it. So for me, I like to retouch non-destructively. But some of the most favorite tools used by photographers is the patch tool when they're retouching skin, but you can't retouch on a blank layer with the patch tool. So for me, I use an empty layer. And also, the tools that I use, the two most used tools that I use for skin, outside of dodging and burning and things like that, is the healing brush and the clone stamp. In my opinion, those are the only two tools that you need when you're retouching and working on skin. And I'm going to show you guys today how I get that done. So I'm going to go ahead and open up an empty layer, and I'm going to bring up my healing brush. This is an image that I shot a while back of a model. Her name is Gogo. It was for an editorial in Elements magazine. So you guys can check that out. I'll link it in the description. So let me go ahead and zoom in. Now Gogo has pretty good skin already. So there's not going to be a lot of stuff that you need to do for an image like this. I think just your general cleaning, probably some dodging and burning. I see a couple of spots that need some color correction and maybe a little bit of color grading. But outside of that, those are probably going to be the only things that you need to do to an image like this. So let me get started. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my healing brush. And I'm going to find some blemishes that I want to get rid of. So for instance, I'm going to start right here. I'm going to sample using the Option key on my Mac. I'm just going to paint that away. I'm going to paint that one away. And I'm just going to keep sampling spots that I feel don't need to be in the image. And I'm going to do that, again, by sampling with the Option key. I'm going to find a clean spot, and I'm just going to paint it away. Of course, it takes a little bit more time than what you're normally used to. I know the patch tool is a lot quicker, but for me, it's not really about speed. It's about being able to control the image. And I think the patch tool just really gives a funky looking artifact on the skin. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you guys have a better way to use the patch tool where it doesn't leave the skin looking all funky. Drop me a comment, let me know. I would love to hear some of you guys' feedback. But for me, using the healing brush on an empty layer is just a part of my workflow. I've used it for the longest, and to me it just seems to work out the best. Of course, again, I know it's a little bit slower than some of the other tools, but to me it's a lot more efficient as far as being able to control the final outcome instead of letting Photoshop determine which area you should sample from. Also, I normally never use the content aware, especially on skin. Maybe on fabric or something like that. Maybe I'll use the patch tool on that. But again, the clone stamp can rectify all the things that the healing brush can't do. Speaking of the clone stamp, I'm going to show you guys how I would normally use the clone stamp, especially on this image. Let me just clean this up real quick. So, Go-Go's eyebrows, there is a lot of hairs around the eyebrows that need to be cleaned up. So, but the clone stamp, all I'm doing is just sampling from where I want to remove some of these hairs from. And because I'm using a clone stamp, I won't really get that blemish look, that blurred look when I get close to the edges if I'm using the healing brush. I know there are ways to do it with the healing brush, but for me, I think the clone stamp is just easier to use when you get close to the edges and things like that. And the clone stamp is good, especially if you're retouching hair, which I normally try to stay away from because hair is a nightmare. Using the blending molds will help you alleviate some of the problems that you may have with the healing brush. I have to zoom in just a little bit. Make my brush a little bit smaller. Okay. Now I'm just being kind of anal. So you definitely don't have to zoom in this far on your retouch. I'm definitely just doing this for illustration purposes. So let me zoom back out and cut my layer on and off just to show you guys what I've done so far. So I'll probably spend like maybe 45 minutes to an hour cleaning up the skin, and then I'll move on to something like dodging and burning. I don't use frequency separation. I think if you clean the skin up right on your empty cleanup layer and then dodge and burn, you definitely won't need frequency separation. So I won't be doing a tutorial on frequency separation because I really don't use it. I may use it maybe once or twice in a year. I can't even tell you the last time I used frequency separation. My workflow is just a empty layer, healing brush, clone stamp, dodge and burn, color correction, and then color grading. And that's basically my workflow on retouching. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned some tips. I'm definitely going to do another one. I'm definitely going to show you guys how I dodge and burn. I haven't done a dodge and burn video in like 2 years. I've definitely gotten better in dodging and burning, so I definitely want to show you guys some of the improvements that I've made when I dodge and burn and show you how I do it. And I definitely will see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much for joining me, and holla at your boy. Peace.